All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Fury 3, the best game to be in a Minnesota-based speed run in the mid-afternoon that was specifically designed to run on Windows 95. So, I had to do a bunch of control remapping before this, so anyone want to guess what the button is to start a new game? Close. F2. And just setting the difficulty, and ready on the countdown?
Yeah, ready for countdown.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So I might as well just say this right off the bat. I've hurt my wrist 3 times running this game because this is the default rate of fire. And that is way too slow. We got to do this. And I've actually remapped the controls specifically so that I can mash with 2 hands. So that is going to save a little time, particularly when we get to the boss fights. So as for the story of this game, robots evil, destroy robots. And we're about to get the most important item in the game, which is turbo. So this is the maximum speed at full throttle. This is turbo speed. So we want to be able to do this for as much of the game as possible. And I'm running the all objectives category, which means that everything that appears at the top of the screen, I have to do. If you're doing any percent, you can just ignore most of this and head straight to the tunnels, but you can't do that on this category. So there are a bunch of different weapons we're going to pick up over the course of the run. And right now we just have the base laser weapon, which can be upgraded later on. The Sonic Kinetic Laser, it's called. And, oh geez. There you are. These guys can be incredibly annoying when they run off to the hills. So yeah, the basic idea of this run is you never want to run out of turbo. And because we're on all objectives, that means I'm going to have to go for a few more turbo pickups than on any percent. Any percent, you can complete this game in under half an hour. Whereas with all objectives, it takes over half an hour, at least in its current state. All right, once the target's destroyed, you can fly off to the checkpoint. And then to get to the jump zone, it doesn't matter where exactly you hit the jump zone, just as long as you, oh wait, I'm thinking of the wrong map. Just as long as you're above it or near it, it'll trigger the exit flag for the level. So this is going to be the point where I have to double up on mashing. Sorry if you can hear the spacebar in the background, that's just something we'll have to live with. So, tunnel sections. If you don't fly into the tunnel at a very particular angle, sometimes it'll just say, no, do it again. And then you have to back up and approach the tunnel from a different angle. So it's normal to run out of turbo here, but it's not normal to miss that one. You really don't need to shoot any of these enemies, because the only thing that matters is just the objective. So unless you're specifically told to destroy those things, you don't have to destroy those things. That said, some enemies do drop turbo power-ups, and some of them do drop like weapons, like rapid-fire lasers, missiles. We got a weapon earlier called the dead-on missiles, which the way those work is they just fire in a straight line and do slightly more damage. They're basically a weapon that I'm only going to use in a couple particular applications if I can avoid it. Now there are a couple of different approaches you can take to turbo use. What I prefer to do is just keep the throttle low all the time, and then that way I can turbo and then make a really sharp turn and then turbo again. Some players will just keep the throttle up the entire time, and that is an annoying bit of RNG about this run, is anytime you get hit by an enemy, it'll kind of just point you in a random direction. Sometimes you'll be facing the same direction, and then sometimes the game will flip you upside down and turn you around. So that is something you have to deal with over the course of the run. You can try destroying the enemies around you, but they'll respawn. So it's really best to just try and tank your way through everything. And that is going to bring us to level 3 of World 1. On the missions where it's mostly just destroying enemies or basic ground structures, it's not really so bad. But there are several times where the game will ask you to destroy several structures at once, and that's when it gets really hard on the wrist. I'm also going to try and go for a few more shield pickups than usual, and I accidentally hit the Alt key. That'll happen sometimes. The way I remapped this, the game allows key remapping, but very selectively. So my fingers are on like the throttle and roll and direction keys, but I'm constantly having to worry about placing my fingers right, because I can change the cockpit view by accident, I can go to a third-person view by accident, I can pause the game by accident, and I can minimize the game by accident, because all those keys are right next to all the main controls. Alright, so this is going to take us to the next tunnel section. On any percent, if you see something like this, you can just like tank your way through the structure instead of having to destroy it, if it calls for destroying it. Now, this is like the basic strategy for tunnels, is to just go full throttle and try and keep your line right. Although sometimes the game will just point you toward a wall. So this is our first Guardian. We're going to be fighting these in every single world. And the way it works is you have to destroy these things. These are shield generators. If you try shooting the boss without destroying these, you will do absolutely no damage. Okay, so I accidentally hit the Windows key. Wonderful. And I'm stuck spinning. There. That's unfortunate, but it's not unheard of. Also, I'm too close to the boss, so the hitbox isn't working. There we go. And now you have to find the tunnel to get out of the boss chamber, which can be really difficult at points, particularly if you're colorblind like I am, because some of this just blends into each other. Okay, that is the upgrade for the basic laser. So now you'll fire dual shots with it. You can upgrade it again to fire quad shots. And then it's basically on par with the rapid fire laser, except the rapid fire laser moves a little faster. Now I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here, because there's a weapons cache over here, which has a bunch of turbo and rapid fire lasers. Turbo and rapid fire lasers are basically two of the most important items in the game, except for the Bion Fury missiles, which we'll get to later. Another thing to note about all objectives mode is that, yes, you have to do all the objectives, but there's no particular order you have to do them in. So, if you happen to be flying by a structure that you know you'll have to destroy at some point, you can just destroy it ahead of time and then shorten the path you'll have to take through the whole level. Like this one, for example. This one pops up later, so you just get it now and save a little bit of time. It can be kind of annoying when the enemy ships fly in front of your shots, particularly if you're counting your shots, because they can block one and then you'll fly off and then realize, oh wait, the structure didn't get destroyed. But the trade-off is enemies have a random chance of dropping power-ups, so some levels you may actually want that to happen. Alright, so this is an important tunnel, so I have to play it a little safe to make sure that I don't miss the item that I need. Oh, I'm upside down, by the way, but in tunnels that doesn't really matter. Okay, Vipers are really good. Vipers are heat-seeking missiles that do comparable damage to the dead-on missiles. And eventually we're going to get the Bion Fury missiles, which I may as well just explain it now. Bion Fury missiles are like the Vipers in that they're heat-seeking, but they do more damage. So those are very important for boss fights. Safety shield, and we are off. Now there's some other items like outside of weapons. Like there's invincibility that you can pick up. And my favorite weapon, the I forget what exactly that stands for, but it's a weapon so powerful that you can only carry one of it. And what it does is it'll wipe the screen of enemies and do significant damage to any bosses. Unfortunately, it doesn't outright kill them, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. We ran out of rapid fires. That's unfortunate. Gonna have to make more use of some of my other weapons. Weapon 2 you usually don't use at all because it kind of fires like a shotgun. So it's very hard to aim at anything with it. The nice thing is that if you do run out of rapid fires, you do get just the regular alternating shots version of it. But still, oh, here we are. Bion Fury missiles, okay. If I miss any of those during this run, it's going to cost me quite a bit of time. All right. That will take us into the jump zone. Oh, great. Yeah, that spun me completely around. Love it when that happens. Yes, free turbo. There's a very low chance of that happening, so if you can get that to happen during a run, it's excellent. One turbo, if you just hold it down, it lasts about 15 seconds. So missing even one of those can be pretty catastrophic for a run. Also, Midwest Speed Fest Tech crew, I apologize for what I am doing to this keyboard. The spacebar will never be the same. Alright, and... Now the ideal route, okay, good. That's what I was trying not to miss. In an ideal route, you would just go full blast through these tunnels. But I do not trust this game at all, because frequently it'll just point my ship toward the wall and then say, have fun. So this is one of the rare outdoor Guardian fights. And unfortunately, he has way more shield generators. But that isn't going to be a problem, because make sure to stock up on rapid fires. So we'll back off, wipe the screen, and just load up on the Vipers. And we're good. So the first world only had one Guardian that we were going to fight. And so does that one. However, this is the point in the game where you start having to fight multiple Guardians per world. I'm also trying to line up some of these so that I can just let go of my directional keys and fire away. This is invisibility, which is pretty useless, if I'm going to be honest. It's supposed to make it so that the enemies don't, like, see you, obviously. But what ends up happening is they just fly around aimlessly and they run into you anyway. So, not particularly good. However, if you have invincibility or invisibility, for whatever reason, that makes the hitbox for entering tunnels way more generous. So this is going to be more of the same for a little bit. If you have like any donations, announcements, or just random things to say, now is a pretty good time.
I do. I have a $5 donation from Firebird Lover that says, tuned in and immediately heard the dulcet tones of Kinda Nerdy Housewife. Had to donate to support this wonderful lady. Thank you so much, Firebird Lover. I'd also like to remind you about our 2 upcoming incentives. For the Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, we have a file name bid war that currently has no bids on it. So if you've ever wanted a file name named after you, you can get it for the low, low price of not very much. We're also looking for some donations to get our bonus run of Kirby and the Amazing Mirror into the marathon. Right now, we're about 300 behind on that, so go check it out.
Yes, donate for Kirby. Always donate for Kirby.
Donate for Kirby. I will do my best. Puyo.
So these laser towers are a little annoying because they can get in the way of what I'm trying to shoot. However, sometimes they will drop rapid fire lasers, which you can never have too many of those in this game. Case in point, I've actually run out of them, so I'm resorting to using my upgraded base lasers, although this is about to run out. So a little fun bit of trivia about this level in particular. This tunnel is so narrow that it's almost impossible when you're just blasting through it to miss any of the power-ups. So you can just do this, not even really look at the screen, and you'll still pick up everything. But another fun little thing about, well, this world, not necessarily this level, is that in the any percent, you can just like go straight to the tunnels and skip a bunch of objectives. But in this world in particular, one of the stages you can head straight to a tunnel, and there's an end level flag at the end of it. So you can completely skip over the boss fight, which is a massive time save. This is a little hard to see. Alright, and this is, if I remember correctly. Sorry if my commentary is a little scatterbrained. I just a couple hours ago arrived at the marathon, driving 12 hours to get here. So my brain is yes. Alright, I'm gonna use my dead-on missiles a little bit here, just to try and save on my more important missiles. Oh, I forgot to destroy this one. Okay. Now we'll use the Dominator missiles. That's better. So. Well, I'm going to hold off on using the Bion Fury missiles until a very specific point in the game. So, yeah, you can look forward to that when that happens. Vipers are also going to be useful. Not necessarily for attacking the boss, but for something else related to the boss. cross that bridge when I get to it. But in the meantime, this is rather fortunate in that just the natural path you take, all of those buildings line up. It doesn't always happen in this game, but it's pleasant when it does. Wow, I think that might be the cleanest I've done that particular tunnel section. Usually I end up facing a wall and get completely disoriented. So. This is the second boss for this world. So here's what the Vipers are useful for. The way the homing works is whatever's on screen. So if you keep the boss off screen and then just point at the shield generators, your Vipers will home in on it. And I'm going to break out the Bion Furies for this boss, but I don't want to overuse them. So I'll switch over to the Dominators. I know they're called dead-ons, but it says DOM, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. I cannot afford to miss too many turbos. Because you're probably looking at my turbo and thinking, you have like 1,200 fuel, what are you worried about? There comes a point where turbo gets a little scarce. So like, if I don't have at least 1,000 by the time I hit the final world, I will run out. And in New Croy, this is going to play with altitude a little bit, because it starts off with all the targets being on top of these buildings. Then, the next targets are going to be on the ground, so you got to dive in between all of these. Again, I apologize for turning the spacebar into a taiko drum, but it's kind of necessary for the run. Okay, this one should be here. Yes. So there's actually going to be a little bit of RNG coming up on this world in particular, which will either really help the run or just send it down the tubes. There's really no in between. So this is where you have to start targeting these little ships on the ground. Usually I approach them from a little higher, because otherwise their hitbox gets really narrow and it becomes harder than necessary to shoot them. Oh, I completely forgot this is up here. There we go. Whatever, we can do this upside down, it's fine. Alright, so the beginning of this next stage. Oh, thank you for spinning me around again. Beginning of this next stage, I'm just gonna fire straight ahead, because there are a bunch of enemies that start off lined up with you. And you can try to use that to pick up a couple extra items, which I got a couple turbos and a rapid fire out of that, which is okay-ish. Ideally, you'd get a little more out of that, but I will make it work. Alright. So this next part was really frustrating first time I played this, because, well, you know, I'll explain it after I do the thing. It's a Guardian fight, and we're basically going to do the same thing as before, except I'm just going to fly underneath it. And the last one. There we go. So, I'm just going to hold my breath for a little bit and hope that something doesn't happen. Hey, the game didn't crash. We're good. So there's a weird thing about that boss where if you kill it by draining its health to exactly 0, it'll cause the game to crash when you go to the next level. So if you use nothing but the Bion Fury missiles, that'll end up with him having negative health and prevent the crash from happening. Although there's still a minor chance that the crash could happen. So that's why I made like several safety saves in anticipation of this run. Now what's nice about this world in particular is that most of the targets you're going to face are just enemy units. Which means I am going to use my base lasers to try and conserve a little bit of rapid fire laser energy. Fortunately, this is also one of the bigger maps in the game. This is also the point where the game will just randomly throw in extra things for you to attack. Like, the main targets here are these little mounds, but sometimes it'll also say, by the way, destroy this other tank that just happens to be nearby. And then there will be 3 tanks nearby, and you just gotta know which one you're going after. Like that one, for example. So, the target is the convoy. For this level, you have to destroy every single vehicle in the convoy. That does change later on. But for now, you got to get all of them. Oh, wait. I just realized that was an item I already had. Alright, stage 2. So there are going to be more convoys to destroy in this level. Although, unlike before, when you encounter them this time, you'll only have to destroy the supply trucks, which are the ones right in the middle. These guys. Oh, jeez. We got it. There we go. Okay, so what I do like about this level is the tunnels are nice and tall. So it's a little easier to navigate than some of the other tunnels we've seen in this game. That said, some of these moving walls operate on a global timer, so if you're not quite fast enough, you can end up getting stonewalled by them. This is one of the points where you can only destroy supply trucks and get away with it. This is an important little line here. So after this checkpoint coming up, we get to see the other boss. Hello, Giant Snake. Bye, Giant Snake. The bosses in this game aren't particularly hard once you realize that you can mash the fire button for all of your weapons. Like, just playing this as a kid, I used to think, man, this is ridiculously hard. I wish I had known about the mashing trick back then. If there were any more announcements or anything, this would be a good time to do it.
Okay. So you might be hearing about OI. We are raising money for OI research. Osteogenesis imperfecta, commonly abbreviated OI, is a complicated, variable, and rare genetic bone disorder characterized by fragile bones that break easily. It's also known as brittle bone disease. A person born with OI is affected throughout their lifetime. OI's major features is a fragile skeleton, but many other body systems are also affected. The disorder is caused by a mutation in a gene that affects bone formation, bone strength, and the structure of other tissues. There's no cure for OI, but there are ways to manage symptoms. Despite the obstacles, many people who have OI lead productive and fulfilling lives well into their adult years. The goal of treatment is to minimize fractures, enhance independent function, and promote general health. So it's a great cause. You can find out more information on our website. Please check it out.
I almost forgot to get those missiles. That would have been really bad. So... oh, geez, I got hit right as I was going to the tunnel, and it spun me around. So this is one of the rare tunnels where it's easy to tell when you've been flipped upside down. Does that really matter? Not particularly, although it can change your approach coming out of the tunnels. Oh, geez, I'm getting knocked around like a pinball. Visibility will help marginally. If you see those rocks falling and exploding, those can hit you. So if one happens to be right in front of you, it can affect your run. That's another thing, is if you're too slow on this, these guys will just keep flying straight up into the sky. That happened on my first playthrough of this game. I was too slow to get to those guys, and then I just had no idea where the target was. So I had to fly straight up for like 10 seconds to chase down the final target. I'm going for the shield a little more than I normally would in a run. Just because I have had the odd instance where I wound up dying, and there's not really a checkpoint system in this. So if I do die on one of these later stages, I'll pretty much have to replay a couple of stages. But that's not going to happen, of course, because marathon luck. So one of these tunnels is going to have a rather important power-up. There it is, invincibility. I'm trying to hustle a little while doing this because it's possible to have this invulnerability carry all the way through to another tunnel section. And if you can do that, okay, the timer's too low, we're not going to get the whole thing, But you can just do this. Oh, that's unfortunate. I missed the turbo. So, at the rate we're going, we're probably going to run out of turbo. I'm going to say second stage of the final world. But we should still be safely under estimate, even if that happens. I hesitate a little on some of these tunnels because without invisibility or invulnerability, if you don't get that just right, sometimes the game just says no. Should be coming up on the boss relatively soon, and this gets my vote for worst boss, because we've seen how like all the other bosses work to this point. This one throws all that out the window, and oh geez, I hope I got the right tunnel for this. Okay, it's the next tunnel. But basically, I might as well just explain it now. It's one of the bosses that doesn't have the shield generator mechanic. Instead, it just has a really narrow hitbox that constantly moves around. And it also has a bunch of stuff falling from the ceiling. So if you try using your most powerful weapons, all of them are going to lock onto the stuff falling from the ceiling and not actually damage the boss. So I pretty much have to use like rapid fire lasers, dead-on missiles, stuff like that to take out the boss. I'm going to try and line it up a very particular way to maximize the amount of time that I'm hitting the weak spots. So I'll fly over here, try to line it up. Okay, we're going to do a second pass on this. There we go. Now, the exit is hidden behind a massive explosion, and it also blends into the wall. So, it's a little tough to find the first time you play this. And even on consecutive plays, when you get really disoriented. But, yeah, that'll take us to what's basically Waterworld. Although we don't actually go underwater at any point in this stage. I also don't know why we're destroying the robot jungle gyms. The targets make a little more sense in the second stage, but for now, this is what we have to work with. I was thinking of the wrong target and spun the wrong way.
Can I pop in with the...
It should be coming up on the end of this stage relatively soon. Alright, so now for the second stage of this. And this stage coming up is one of the few that really makes use of the false sky that you see here, because the targets are all floating above this. Now for these, there's a very particular spot you have to shoot for most of your shots to register, which is kind of the middle of the tower. Although for these guys, it's kind of closer to the top of the tower. One more of these. And then we get to dive below the skyline. I get the feeling they want you to go above the skyline again for these coming sections. But it is possible to just stay below the skyline the entire time for this thing. Alright, so any percent this map is kind of a joke, because you can just fly above the ridges and go straight to the tunnel leading to the boss. But on any percent, you kind of have to stay in this little valley, because this is where all the targets are going to show up. I just saw our turbo fall below 1,000. Ideally, you would want to finish this stage with at least 1,000 turbo. So we're probably going to run out as we go into the final world, but that is just fine. I missed the laser upgrade, that's okay.
Hey, can I cut in with a donation?
Go right ahead.
I have $20 from Toffer Cakes that says, glad to see some cool runs this morning. Here's to a fun weekend of speed runnings.
I can't remember if there's tunnel in... I almost said I can't remember if there's tunnel in the turbo. Turbo in the tunnel. Shoutouts to Battletoads. Anyway, that will help a little bit. We're still going to be a little short on the turbo, but at least we got a refill on the Bion Furies. So we're in the final world now, and this is a relatively straightforward map. All your targets are going to be these flying ships. And there is a route to do these ships out of order and be a little faster, but for whatever reason, it is just above my primitive brain, because every time I try to do it, I end up getting hit and flipped upside down right there. No, I end up missing the target and then wasting a bunch of time, so we'll just do this the way the game intended for once. Ships coming up. Oh, that turbo is really going to help. Wait, there was another one. Where was it? All right. So that looked like a waste of time, but running out of turbo actually ends up losing more time than having to like stop and go back and grab the turbo power up. So this will take us into the second stage, and this is where turbo gets really scarce unless you get really lucky with enemy drops. going to see a bunch of item pods on the ground, but for the most part, those are going to be things like missiles and rapid-fire laser power-ups, which we're good on the rapid-fire lasers for now. So that was an F3 missile, so nothing else there. Be a little unwieldy to control sometimes, because this is one of those games that was really made with a flight stick in mind. That said, keyboard really is the way to go if you're going to speedrun this, just for being able to mash and get the really high firing rates.
That last donation did go towards the Kirby and the Amazing Mirror run, so I owe you all one Hoo-yo!
Everyone can use a little Boyo. So, this is going to be the final stage. It's more of the same at first. And because my turbo is pretty low, I am going to make a little detour. Hopefully that will last. It can be a bit of a close call sometimes. Alright. So we'll just have a couple more targets to destroy, and then we'll end up entering a tunnel to face the final boss. I'm actually going to grab those Vipers, just to be safe. Alright, we're on the home stretch. All of those. And that's the final boss. So there are a couple turbos in this tunnel, which with the amount of turbo I have left, I am going to need those. Okay, we just ran out, but the turbo's right there. Alright, that should be enough to get to the final checkpoint. Time is coming up. It will be when the congratulations text appears. Time. So that was Fury 3. Not the most original game. It got criticized a lot because it's extremely similar to Terminal Velocity, but I enjoy it regardless, and I also enjoy how a lot of the ship designs are clearly just like rip-offs of stuff from Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica or Babylon 5. I don't do sci-fi, but I still love this game. So, by the way, what was the time?
49:24.
Your time was 49 minutes and 24 seconds.
All right, underestimate. I will take that. My current best in this is 47:23, but that can still go lower if I just don't get spun around a bunch of times from getting shot. But yeah, that's Fury 3. And shout outs to Shade the Crow, Mighty TTC, who's done a lot of routing on this game, and my fiance, who puts up with me playing this way more than I should. So thank you all for having me.